Okay, so a little bit behind here, but let's take a look at the American entrance into World War One. So, America, even though we were officially neutral, slowly began prepping for the possibility of war coming towards us. This preparation was led by the Republicans, specifically by Theodore Roosevelt, who, along with a group of prominent bankers and businessmen, gave financial support to the idea of training private citizens for the possible eventuality of entering a war. Progressives in America viewed Roosevelt's actions, as well as the support that he got from U.S. business and banks, as reinforcing this idea that the war was a bourgeois capitalist ploy to simply make moolah out of the sufferings of others. Now, Woodrow Wilson had really been pushing the idea of, America, we just don't get involved with the business of other people like that. We don't do those kinds of things. That's not what America does. That's not who America is. Um, and to some degree, it's understandable why it is that Wilson would want to stay out of this. Um, the the real issue here is that America is not in a good way. And despite Wilson's belief that everything is just going to be hunky because we've chosen to stay ourselves out of stuff, let's look at some factual realities. Number one, the German army outnumbers the American army 20 to 1. The current American standing army was 200,000 men. The German army was 4 million. That's a big difference. Second, the army itself was not only outnumbered, but after the um, after the war, the Spanish American War, despite the fact that America, had kind of sorry, hit the wrong button there. Despite the fact that America had won the Spanish American War and the army learned a lot of valuable lessons, we still were not really up to date with modern tactics, techniques, and weapons. The Navy was big, but was really not well prepared either. Despite the fact that we were modern, they weren't really prepared to fight a war, and they were busy threatening Mexico and really wouldn't be any good against, I don't know, say Germany or anybody else. And we had virtually no air force because we decided not to spend the money on modernizing the on buying airplanes because that would have been just too much money. Um, there is also the problem that war becomes a very political issue in terms of the Republicans see the necessity of preparing for war. The Democrats believe that the preparation for war is going to cause a war to happen. They think that America is ready to defend itself should Germany ever get, the itch to come over here and try something. Well, guess what? Germany does come over and try something, though not as directly as you might think. In 1916, two weapons factories in New Jersey were blown up by German immigrants, German Americans, who were loyal to the fatherland, and in an effort to prevent the supplying of Britain and France with more stuff, they blew up American factories. This does indicate that whether we like it or not, America is drifting closer and closer to having a problem directly with Germany. Now, there is also the very distinct reality that the German military has been trying to figure out what the effects of America entering the war would be, with the belief that eventually America was going to come in. They calculate that America cannot be ready for war earlier than 1919. And is with that calculation that they make a very grim decision. In January of 1917, Germany announces that it will resume using submarines to destroy anything approaching Britain and France. They believe that the United States cannot respond quickly enough, even if they do declare war. And the Germans are also counting on the fact that Russia is pretty much dead. By early 1917, the Russians are starving. They are lacking supplies and equipment, and their men are being wiped out at enormously high rates. Remember, Russia was the first country to mobilize. They were actually the first country into the war in terms of actually doing something. They invaded Germany, and for a few weeks, it all looked like it was going to go great, and then reality hit. There are two revolutions in Russia in 1917. The first is in February. Now, these dates are according to the Russian calendar. They use a different calendar than we do, so I'm just letting you know. The first Russian Revolution threw out Tsar Nicholas and his family. Here's a picture of the Tsar and his family. We'll get to the creepy guy in the background in a second. The Tsar was thrown out in February, and he was replaced by a democratic government that probably didn't really think this through, decided to stick with the idea of fighting the war. Because of this, the Germans picked this as an opportunity to bring back into Russia an exiled Russian revolutionary named Vladimir Lenin, who is the head of the Bolsheviks, the Russian Communist Party. Lenin is smuggled back into Russia by the Germans. He joins the new democratic government, and within a few months, he has engineered the overthrow of the democratic government of Russia to establish the world's first communist state. Part of what becomes the undoing of everybody is Frico McJoy here. This is Rasputin, Grigory Rasputin. He is a the chief advisor of the Tsar and Tsarina, and he basically is the guy who runs Russia. Um, Even though the Tsar was removed, Rasputin's effects are still felt over the Russian people. And with the victory of the communists, the Tsar and his whole family, including his youngest daughter Anastasia, and eventually Rasputin, are all murdered by the communists. With the Second Russian Revolution in October, Russia pulls out of the war, and in exchange for leaving and being left alone, they give Germany the Ukraine. Now, what the Ukraine gives Germany is not just a huge chunk of territory, it gives Germany the largest food growing region in all of Europe. And remember, that's the one thing that Germany desperately needed was food. Um, Additionally to that, it gives Germany access to the Black Sea and all the resources available and the ability to link up directly with the Ottoman Empire and supply itself with things like oil that it desperately needed. Going back to the United States, in early April of 1917, pardon me, the British publish in U.S. newspapers and give to the State Department a telegram that they intercepted that went from the German ambassador to the government of Mexico. The German ambassador to the United States secretly offers the government of Mexico Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. In exchange, Mexico will declare war on the United States to keep the U.S. busy. The Zimmerman telegram, as it is known, is the final nail in the coffin. The United States now believes that Germany is actively working against it. It is. and needs to be um, removed. Okay. On April the 6th of 1917, Woodrow Wilson addresses Congress and asks for a declaration of war. By this point in time in April, Russia, France, and England are all democracies, fighting against the unified empires of Germany, Austria, and of the Ottoman Empire. Wilson declares that the war and America's entrance into the war are to make the world safe for democracy, not only for America, but it's the democracies against the monarchies. And by a vote of 95 to 1, the United States officially declares war on Germany, and Germany only. And this is where we'll pick this up later. Peace and love.